Welcome to XRP Pro Ledger, and if you hold XRP right now, you absolutely cannot afford to miss what just dropped in the last 24 hours because two developments just landed simultaneously that the mainstream crypto media is either sleeping on or simply does not have the analytical framework to connect properly. Ripple has just partnered with Kyobo Life Insurance, both Korea's largest life insurance company, to launch Korea's first tokenized government bond settlement on the XRP Ledger, opening XRPL to a multi-trillion-dollar institutional sovereign debt market that has never had blockchain infrastructure before today. XRP is trading at $1.43 to $1.45, up 7% this week, heavily outperforming both Bitcoin and Ethereum with key resistance at $1.45 that targets $1.53 and $1.75 on a confirmed break. RLUSD just got listed on Binance, Kraken, and Bybit simultaneously, while Bitrue started accepting it as a margin asset for futures trading. And stay tuned until the very end of this video because I am going to expose the highly classified Project 11 quantum secret that Ripple just leaked, a strategic partnership that is going to make every other blockchain architecture institutionally obsolete by 2028. And the details are going to shock you. Let us start with the Kyobo Life Insurance partnership because this is the institutional development that every serious XRP analyst has been waiting for, and it deserves the full analytical treatment rather than a headline mention. Kyobo Life Insurance is not a regional financial institution experimenting with blockchain on the margins of its business. It is the largest life insurance company in South Korea, managing hundreds of billions of dollars in long-term insurance capital under strict regulatory oversight from one of Asia's most demanding financial regulators. South Korea's government bond market is one of the largest sovereign debt markets in Asia, with outstanding issuance measured in the trillions of dollars and daily settlement volume that makes it one of the most systematically important fixed income markets in the entire Asia-Pacific financial system. The fact that Kyobo chose the XRP Ledger as the infrastructure for Korea's first tokenized government bond settlement means that XRPL passed every internal risk assessment, every compliance review, and every regulatory evaluation that a conservative, systemically important financial institution in one of the world's most rigorous financial regulatory environments requires before committing to a blockchain platform. That is not a marketing win. That is an infrastructure win measured in trillions. The structural significance of a first-mover tokenized government bond settlement on XRPL in South Korea goes far beyond the Kyobo Life deal itself, because in institutional finance, the first implementation of a new settlement infrastructure in a major market creates a precedent that accelerates every subsequent implementation in that market exponentially. Every other life insurance company in South Korea, and there are dozens of them managing hundreds of billions in combined assets, now has a live, auditable, institutionally validated deployment of XRPL-based government bond settlement to point to when their own internal technology committees evaluate whether to adopt the same infrastructure. Every pension fund, every sovereign wealth fund, every government-linked investment vehicle in South Korea is now evaluating the Kyobo deployment as a proof of concept for their own potential XRPL adoption. And every financial institution across the broader Asia-Pacific region in Japan, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Taiwan is watching what the largest life insurer in South Korea just validated and updating their own infrastructure evaluation accordingly. The Kyobo deal is not the end of the South Korea story. It is the beginning of the Asia-Pacific institutional cascade that follows it. Now, I need you to pay very close attention here because what I am about to tell you is the development that the institutional investors making 10 and 20-year infrastructure commitments are quietly treating as the most strategically significant announcement Ripple has ever made, and most of the retail market is completely missing it. Ripple has announced a strategic roadmap to make the XRP Ledger fully quantum resistant by 2028. Then, the leaked detail that changes everything about this announcement is the name of the partner they have brought in to execute it, Project 11. Project 11 is a specialized quantum computing research and security firm operating at the intersection of quantum hardware development and post-quantum cryptographic implementation, and their involvement in Ripple's quantum resistance roadmap signals that this is not a theoretical planning exercise but an active, technically resourced implementation effort with a specific 2028 delivery target. Stay tuned because later in this video I am going to break down exactly what the Project 11 partnership means for XRPL's institutional competitive competitive advantage and why the specific 2028 timeline is the number that is going to rewrite the institutional evaluation criteria for every major blockchain infrastructure decision being made over the next 3 years. The RLUSD expansion happening simultaneously with the Kyobo Life deal and the Project 11 announcement is the third layer of a convergence that is building institutional infrastructure across multiple dimensions at the same time. RLUSD getting listed on Binance, Kraken, and Bybit in the same window is not 3 separate exchange listing events. It is RLUSD achieving the critical mass of exchange distribution that transforms it from a Ripple product into a market-wide institutional liquidity instrument. Binance is the largest crypto exchange in the world by volume. Kraken is one of the most regulated and institutionally trusted exchanges in the US market. Bybit is one of the fastest growing institutional-grade derivatives platforms globally. Each listing brings a different category of institutional user into the RLUSD liquidity pool. Binance brings volume, Kraken brings US institutional compliance cover, and Bybit brings derivatives market sophistication. But the Bitrue development is the one that most analysts are missing. Bitrue accepting RLUSD as a margin asset for futures trading means that RLUSD is now being used as collateral in leverage institutional trading strategies, which is the highest confidence signal possible that RLUSD has achieved institutional-grade trust as a dollar-denominated asset. The market cap context of XRP having recently flipped BNB to become the third largest cryptocurrency by market cap, excluding stablecoins, needs to be understood alongside the Kyobo Life deal and the RLUSD expansion as part of the same institutional narrative. The number 3 ranking is not a vanity metric, it is the threshold above which assets appear on the approved product list of institutional allocators who have minimum market cap requirements for their investment mandates. Pension funds, endowments, and sovereign wealth funds operating under institutional investment policies that require a minimum market cap before allocation are now able to include XRP in their standard portfolio evaluation process without seeking special approval or mandate exceptions. The BNB flip created the market cap condition that unlocks the next tier of institutional capital, and the Kyobo Life partnership, the RLUSD exchange listings, and the Project 11 Quantum Roadmap are the fundamental developments that justify the market cap at a level that makes the number 3 ranking sticky rather than temporary. The ranking change and the fundamental developments are reinforcing each other in a feedback loop that retail investors watching the chart without the institutional context cannot fully appreciate. Here is the Project 11 quantum secret that I promised you at the beginning of this video, but I want you to understand why this specific partnership is going to matter more to XRP's long-term institutional positioning than almost any other development we have covered. The quantum computing threat to existing blockchain security is not a theoretical future risk that needs to be addressed eventually. It is an active development timeline that the most sophisticated institutional research teams at major banks, government agencies, and defense contractors are tracking with extreme precision. The consensus in institutional quantum computing research is that cryptographically relevant quantum computers, machines capable of breaking the elliptic curve cryptography that secures Bitcoin, Ethereum, and most other blockchain networks will be operational within the next 18 to 36 months. Project 11 has been specifically focused on measuring and benchmarking the current state of quantum computing hardware against the cryptographic thresholds required to break blockchain security, and their research is the most precise public measurement of how close we actually are to Q-Day, the moment when quantum computers can break current blockchain cryptography in operationally relevant timeframes. Ripple partnering with Project 11 for the XRPL quantum resistance implementation means that the organization with the most precise measurement of the actual Q-Day timeline is now directly involved in building the cryptographic defenses that will protect the XRP ledger before that timeline arrives. This is not Ripple hiring a general cybersecurity firm to review their cryptographic standards. This is Ripple bringing in the specific organization that has done the most rigorous independent research on quantum computing's threat to blockchain security and asking them to help build the solution. The 2028 target is not arbitrary. It is calibrated against Project 11's own research on when quantum computing hardware will reach the threshold that makes current blockchain cryptography vulnerable. And the 4-phase implementation roadmap that Ripple has announced ensures that the XRPL will achieve full quantum resistance in a structured, audible, institutionally verifiable way that meets the cryptographic standards required by the regulated financial institutions that are the primary users of the infrastructure being built on top of it through the Kyobo Life partnership and the RLUSD ecosystem. The price action at $1.43 to $1.45 with a 7% weekly gain outperforming Bitcoin and Ethereum needs to be understood in the context of the specific resistance levels that technical analysts are watching, because the technical picture and the fundamental picture are telling the same directional story at the same time. The key resistance at $1.45 has been tested multiple times in recent sessions, and each test has been followed by a consolidation that holds above the previous support level, the classic pattern of a market where institutional buyers are absorbing every wave of profit-taking at resistance without allowing the price to give back meaningful ground. A confirmed break above $1.45 with volume targets $1.53 as the next significant technical objective, followed by $1.75 as the next major resistance zone above that. The $1.75 target represents approximately 20% upside from current levels, and given the catalyst stack operating beneath the current price, including the Kyobo Life multi-trillion-dollar institutional market opening, the RLUSD Binance and Kraken and Bybit listings, and the Project 11 Quantum Resistance Partnership, the $1.75 technical target looks increasingly like a fundamental repricing toward fair value rather than a speculative price target. The convergence of the South Korea institutional bombshell, the Project 11 quantum secret, and the RLUSD multi-exchange expansion into the same trading week as XRP's 7% outperformance of Bitcoin and Ethereum is not a coincidence. It is the visible surface of an institutional deployment process that has been operating beneath the market's awareness for months and is now breaking into public view through the specific developments we have been analyzing throughout this video. The Kyobo Life partnership did not happen overnight. The Project 11 quantum roadmap was not developed in a week. The RLUSD exchange listings at Binance and Kraken and Bybit were not negotiated in a month. These are the public announcements of infrastructure decisions and partnership agreements that have been in development through private institutional channels for extended periods, and their simultaneous public emergence in the same window is the signal that the institutional deployment phase is transitioning from preparation to active execution. The smart money that has been accumulating at current levels knew these announcements were coming. The price action is the trace evidence of that foreknowledge. The question is not whether XRP's fundamental story supports higher prices. It clearly does. The question is whether you have the conviction to hold through the consolidation while the market catches up to the data. The complete picture is this. South Korea's largest life insurer just opened XRPL to a multi-trillion-dollar government bond settlement market for the first time in history. Project 11, the organization with the most precise measurement of the Q-Day quantum computing threat, just partnered with Ripple to build post-quantum cryptographic defenses into the XRP Ledger before the 2028 deadline that their own research defines. RLUSD achieved critical institutional exchange distribution through Binance, Kraken, and Bybit simultaneously, while Bitrue validated its institutional-grade trust by accepting it as futures margin collateral. XRP is the number 3 cryptocurrency by market cap excluding stablecoins, unlocking the institutional mandate thresholds that allow the next tier of allocators to begin their full allocation process. The price is at $1.43 to $1.45, with technical targets at $1.53 and $1.75 on a confirmed $1.45 break. And every single one of these developments reinforces every other one in a feedback loop that is building institutional demand, institutional trust, and institutional infrastructure simultaneously at a speed and scale that the retail market has not fully priced in. The quantum secret is out. The South Korea leak is confirmed. The only question that remains is whether you understand what these developments mean before the price reflects them completely. If this analysis changed how you're thinking about XRP, hit like and subscribe. I drop deep dive breakdowns like this twice a day to keep you ahead of the market.